On the night of August 24th, 1814, the American Capitol burned. Flames swallowed the Capitol building, the Treasury, and finally, the President's house, the White House itself. British troops marched through Washington, D.C., leaving destruction in their wake. For the young United States, barely 3 decades old, it was a moment of humiliation and near despair. But how did this happen? Where was the U.S. Army when its capital was left to the mercy of the enemy? The War of 1812 was already 2 years old when disaster struck Washington. America had declared war on Britain, frustrated by trade restrictions, British impressment of American sailors, and ongoing conflict over Canada. Yet this was a young and untested nation. The United States was fighting the world's greatest naval power with limited resources, political division at home, and an army still in its infancy. In the summer of 1814, Britain finally went on the offensive. With Napoleon defeated in Europe, the British could spare veteran troops for America. A powerful expeditionary force landed in Maryland, aiming to strike at the heart of the United States, its capital city. Washington, D.C. was lightly defended. Many thought it wasn't even worth attacking. But the British saw an opportunity to shock the Americans and cripple morale. On August 24th, the American army gathered at Bladensburg, just a few miles from the capital. General William Winder commanded a force of about 6,000 men, a mix of poorly trained militia, a few regular army troops, and naval marines under Commodore Joshua Barney. When the British attacked, chaos reigned. The militia broke almost immediately, fleeing in such panic that the battle became known as the Bladensburg Races. Only Commodore Barney and his sailors made a determined stand with their cannons. They fought fiercely, inflicting casualties and slowing the British advance. But outnumbered and surrounded, Barney was wounded and captured. The rest of the American army was in full retreat. Scattered across the countryside, Washington now lay defenseless. By late afternoon, the British marched toward Washington. President James Madison had ridden out to the battlefield, only to witness his army's collapse. He, along with his cabinet, fled the capital in haste. Inside the White House, First Lady Dolley Madison received word that the British were on their way. Calm but resolute, she ordered servants to save precious government documents and famously rescued Gilbert Stuart's portrait of George Washington before fleeing. Hours later, the mansion she left behind would be in flames. On the evening of August 24th, the British troops entered the city. They moved deliberately, targeting symbols of American government. First, they torched the Capitol, its library and chambers reduced to rubble. Next came the Treasury and the War Department. Finally, they entered the President's house. Inside, the British found a lavish meal left on the table, dinner prepared for President Madison before he fled. They sat down, ate their fill, and then set the building ablaze. The flames leapt into the night sky, lighting up the city as terrified residents looked on. Washington was engulfed in fire, its proudest buildings turned to charred ruins. So where was the U.S. Army during this disaster? The truth is, the American forces were shattered. The militia had fled at Bladensburg. Many soldiers were scattered in retreat, some wounded or captured alongside Barney's Marines. Others were regrouping further north, preparing to defend Baltimore. Washington itself had only a tiny, disorganized force left, far too small to stop the British. The capital was, for all intents and purposes, abandoned to its fate. The British did not remain in Washington long. After 26 hours, they withdrew, heading to Baltimore, a city that would soon put up a much fiercer resistance. Still, the damage was done. The burning of Washington was a humiliation for the United States. The young nation's capital lay in ashes. Yet, from this low point, America's resolve only hardened. Within months, American troops would repel the British at Baltimore and later earn a stunning victory at New Orleans. The burning of Washington in 1814 stands as one of the darkest moments in U.S. history. It revealed the nation's vulnerability, but also tested its endurance. The White House was rebuilt, the Capitol rose again, and the war, though costly, ended in a stalemate that allowed America to claim survival and even victory in the eyes of its people. From the ashes of 1814, the United States emerged with a stronger national identity, more determined than ever to defend its sovereignty. When the British burned Washington, the world saw a fragile republic on the brink of collapse. But America rise again. The White House, rebuilt and restored, became not just the home of presidents, but a symbol of resilience, rebirth, and the enduring spirit of a nation.